to talk to you guys about the difference between the supercharged car and a turbo car. Actually, which one I prefer to drive. Now, I did a video where I was driving the Retro Fox and let you guys see all that. We talked about the differences and how the power comes in and things like that. And then I drove the Calypso. In that particular video, I didn't have any words. I didn't say anything. I just drove the car I needed that day. What we're gonna do though is use that video as a reference. Let's talk about the difference between these two cars. But before we do that, I wanna turn you guys around and show you something on the Calypso. So I wanted to show you guys the 18-inch wheels on the Calypso. Now, this is not the actual configuration that these wheels are going to stay in. They're probably going to go on the Retro Fox. I do think that they would look a little better on the Retro Fox, but I wanted to go ahead and get them on this car because I just want to see what it looked like. Get over here so you guys can see a little bit better in the light. I think it looks sick. I think it looks really good. It kind of reminds me of the Bogarts whenever we had those on there, but not exactly. Obviously these are the riveted wheels. They got a little more bling, a little more pop to them, if you will, but they look really good on the car. Now, I have been wanting to go back to a street tire setup, like a street wheel setup on this car, because it handles so much better with that. So that's why I went ahead and did this. We're going to change wheels out a lot on this channel. Do not worry, guys. So these wheels will eventually end up over here on the Retro Fox, but that's not what this video is about. In this video, I want to talk about the difference between these two cars, right? We've hit on it a little bit. We've driven this car and I've told you what I think about it. But then again, we drove the Calypso and I didn't really have any words that day. I just needed to get out and drive. But I do remember that drive. And if I can, I will include some video from there. So first off, let's go ahead and get these hoods popped. Let's talk about the two cars. Oh yeah? You have to race the cars? All right.
Daddy, can you go get the straps for the cars?
Hey, which car do you like the best? The green one or the red one?
Green one.
So first, let's start with the Retro Fox. This is a stock bottom end car with a B-cam, SVE aluminum heads, a Vortec SI supercharger with the Heritage gears in it, 60-pound injectors, headers, 373 gears. So very simple setup. The old school Hartman intake. This Hartman intake also runs the stock lower, so it's kind of a bottleneck, if you will, there. But also, I need to mention it's on 10 pounds of boost. Let's go. All right, so the Calypso is a completely different animal. This is a dart block 347 stroker, 80-pound injectors, Edelbrock upper and lower intake, 70mm turbo. This has the Trick Flow 11R 205cc heads. This has the Comp Cams Extreme Energy 274 HR camshaft. Alright, so two completely different cars, right? This car has a lot more motor, a lot more head, and a turbo. This car over here, stock bottom end, you know, decent heads, and a supercharger. First off, let's talk about how do they perform? How do they run? Well, we don't have any track times on either car. but I can tell you seat of the pants that this Retro Fox will move. Guys, this car runs really, really good. It's a fast car, but it doesn't put down so much power right off the hit that the car is just unusable. It's borderline, but it is a usable car nonetheless. Now, the way that Supercharger comes in is more RPM based. So I want you guys to always remember that with a centrifugal, you're going to get instant boost, but you're not going to make 10 pounds of boost as soon as you step on the throttle. Not if you're making a total of 10 pounds of boost. Now, for this car to really start to come alive, you need to get up in the RPM range somewhere around 45 to 5,000 RPMs, and then this car wants to just come to life. And it runs really good. And the longer you stay in it, the more RPM you create, the better this car runs, the more horsepower it's going to make. So, with all that being said, this car is really quick. This is a very fun car, and it will probably surprise you. Every day driving this thing around, it pretty much feels like a stock car. You're not going to notice the boost for the most part if you're just easing around until you stick your foot in it and you stay in it for a minute. Then you'll notice, oh shit, this thing makes some boost. Okay, so getting over here to this car. Now, the turbo makes boost a little differently, but there again, it's going to always depend on the size of your engine, how efficient it is, and the size of your turbo. And what I mean by that is this car right here, when we had the stock block with those heads in this car with a 70 millimeter, it had boost lag for days. I mean, it took forever to build boost. It was a fun car, but it was very raw. All of that boost came in at the exact same time, and it was like a rocket ship. That may sound fun, and I guess it could be to some people, but to me, I don't actually prefer that. I prefer more of a linear type boost, curve. Now, with all that being said, that's changed, right? That's changed. This car does not operate that way anymore. Why is that? Well, it's because we have more cubic inches, and this car has a decent amount of compression. It's got really good heads. This engine is actually a little big for a 70 millimeter, okay? Now we're in the realm of something like this EcoBoost truck with really small twin turbos. This thing makes boost instantly. It's almost like it doesn't even have a turbo. It's almost like it has a big block in it, if that makes sense. Like torque on demand, right? That's the way these trucks are set up to run, and they do a very, very good job of it. Now, with the smaller turbo, the Calypso acts the same way. The minute you put your foot in it, it's making boost almost instantly. And honestly, it's very fun that way. I enjoy it. So now let's just talk about which car is more fun to drive on a daily basis. Honestly, they're both so different that you can't really pick a winner here. And I'm not trying to opt out of this, okay? This car feels more like a stock car. Just as you stay in it, the longer you stay in it, it just like creates a monster. I mean, it just comes to life, right? But it feels more like a stock car. This car does not feel like a stock car. This thing has a turbo on it. Well, I'll say this. It may feel like a stock, like big block 460 with like a RV, like a pulley, like a towing cam in it, if you will. And like something along those lines. Like that's kind of what this thing feels like. But it also comes to life on up in the RPM range because it is a stroker, and it can do that with the heads and everything else. So, if I had to choose a car to drive every single day, I would probably pick the Retro Fox as like an everyday driver, commute back and forth to work. When you want that more spirited trip to work, I would say this car is more fun. It just depends. Like I said, it depends on what you like. I personally really like the way the boost comes in with this car. I may not ever go to a bigger turbo. Probably at some point we will, just because we want to make more power. But as far as drivability, I personally believe a 70 millimeter with a 347 and some good heads is freaking money. All right, so I'll give it a toss-up as far as which car is more fun to drive. Each person's gonna like something different. I just prefer this, but at the same time, there's days when I just want to drive that. I guess I can answer the question of which one is the easiest to drive. Now that gets a little tricky. Believe it or not, the turbo car is a little easier to drive. I don't know why. Don't ask me. It's probably just the setup. But this car is a little easier to take off from, say, like a stoplight or something like that than this car is. And there again, that could just be the difference in the combinations, not so much the supercharger versus the turbo thing. But this car is very, very easy and docile to drive around. But when you put your foot in it, it makes boost. It makes boost almost instantly. So that would probably be a turnoff for some people, where this car doesn't really do that. All right, so now let's talk about the one thing everybody wants to know. So which car is faster? All right, let's run back through this. The Retro Fox over here is on 10 pounds of boost supercharged. This car is on 5 pounds of boost turbocharged. Guys, it's honestly not even close. It's not even close. Which one do you think? Which one do you think is faster? Seat of the pants, from what I can tell, the Calypso, hands down, is faster than the Retro Fox. It's just nasty. Guys, that turbo is just disgusting in the way that it makes power and the feel that you get. You want to skin it back, buddy? You want something that'll peel the skin off your face? That turbo setup in that car is the one to do it. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, I drive this car down the road with these street tires. First time this car has been on actual street tires, I think, with the turbo. Or it's been a long time anyway. Rolling in third gear, just going down the road in third gear, I rolled into it and it annihilated the tires. Like they weren't even back there. On 5 pounds of boost, guys, 5 pounds of boost with 331 gears, just destroyed the tires. I'm telling you now, this car is an animal. I'm not telling you that it's the fastest thing out there. I know that. There's plenty of cars that are way faster. That's not the point. That damn car right there will hurt you if you're not careful. It will hurt you. You have to be careful with it. On the other hand, this car over here now has drag radials on it, and yesterday I drove it down the road as a comparison. Sorry I didn't video it. I actually had no intentions of driving both cars. But this car actually hooks really good. If you get the tires hot, it hooks pretty good. It'll spin about a half a car length in first if you get the tires really hot, and then it goes. Kind of took me by surprise. I dumped the clutch in second gear just to spin the tires because, you know, that's what we do, right? Well, I inadvertently heated up the tires, so when I go out there on the road, like out here, and I hit this thing in first, it snatched. Like, it went. It was impressive. It's very impressive. So this car will run. There again, guys, don't get so caught up in a turbo is not a good street setup, or a supercharger is not a good street setup. There really is no correct answer here. It's all going to come down to your combination. And let me explain to you once again why I'm saying this so that you all understand. You could take this little supercharger right here and you could put it over there on that 347 and it would be disgusting. It'd be nasty. Why? Because that motor already makes a lot of power itself. So the supercharger is just amplifying that. It's going to be a little more docile on this setup right here because this motor doesn't make a lot of power, right? Same thing with this car. This turbo setup works flawlessly on this car, but if you took that turbo off and you put it over here on this little motor, it's not going to work as efficiently. It's going to have a lot of boost lag, and the boost is all going to want to kind of come in at one time and be abrupt. I'm telling you, it's all about your setup, okay? So if you learn anything from this video, I hope it's the fact that your bottom end, your NA motor, is what's the most important. As long as you have a very good foundation on your NA build, then pretty much whatever you throw on top of it is just going to amplify it. If you have a very lazy, low compression engine that doesn't make a lot of power NA, it's going to kind of be the same thing once you put your power adder on it. If you're drag racing, it really doesn't matter because your foot's in it all the time. There's a big difference between ultimate power and driving a car on the street. And I guess that's the big thing that I want you guys to understand. It's a huge difference. All right, so before we go, let's go ahead and start both cars up. I'll let you guys hear them, and we'll close this thing out. Very different sounds between these two cars. This car is very rowdy. This car is very docile. Very, very, very tame. Listen how quiet this car is. This thing is so quiet we can sit right here and talk while it's running. Watch the difference. I'm gonna keep the same tone. I'm not gonna change my voice at all. This is exactly how we were talking over there at the other car. All right, so before we go, I'm gonna rev both cars up so you can hear them. I want you to hear the differences. And there you go, guys. That's the difference. Which one do I prefer? Honestly, it just depends on the day of the week, to be completely honest. A lot of it's going to come down to also how's your car handle, how comfortable is it inside, does everything work on the car, like all that type stuff. So all of that's going to be a huge factor. This car is more comfortable to ride in and to actually sit and drive than this car. So, you know what I mean? Take that for what it is. I'm going to go ahead, wrap this video up. And as always, thanks for watching. Cam, tell them bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See, go like that. Put your hand up.